Well, look, let's move on to Jadon Sancho. Good luck tomorrow, says OC. What would you do with Jadon Sancho? Now, I'm just going to say this. Thank you to everybody who acknowledged what I said yesterday morning about Jadon Sancho, where that story came out about his shyness, and sometimes he's really bubbly and sometimes he's really introverted. And I said, I'm not interested in that. Not interested in that. You can't judge any human being on the way they are. Well, you can't judge a footballer just because they might be a bit loud or they might be a bit quiet. That's a personality trait, and we all have that. I didn't like that about Sancho. Sancho's made a massive mistake, and I think he should be sold. I think that the thing for me is that Jadon Sancho has undermined the manager, undermined the club, undermined his teammates, and it's still there on social media nearly a week later. That's unexcusable. I'm not angry about it. I don't dislike Sancho. It's not personal. I just think you could have deleted that a long time ago. It's still there 5 days later. That is many things, but it's misjudged. But I've got no interest in people criticising Jadon Sancho because he might be a bit loud or he might be a bit timid or anything like that. That's irrelevant to me. That's irrelevant. He's put a silly tweet out and, it's undermined the manager. And for me, that's the big mistake. So I suppose the question is, what's next? Sancho needs to go. I heard the locker room also did not like what he posted. Get rid of the rotten apple before it spoils the bunch, says Ivan. Well, it was a very interesting interview with Rob Dawson and Adam this afternoon, wasn't it? About the Jadon Sancho situation. And there was also these stories coming out from Mark Ogden in the ESPN that fans within the dressing room, when players within the dressing room are not, not happy, which I'm sure they're not. I said it very, very quickly, and a lot of you picked it up anyway. The big thing for me is he didn't take the tweet down, and it's still there 5 days later. I said it after 1 day, after 2 days, after 4 days. It's still there. I don't know whether you've ever done it. Have you ever sent a WhatsApp to somebody, or in my case, have you ever put a tweet out that you suddenly think, that's, I remember I've done this a few times. You put a tweet out, you word it in a way to mean something, and then people don't get what you mean, and then you check the replies and it's all very, not what you wanted them to respond. They might have took it as in a negative way, and you just think, you know what, either I'll reply and clarify or I'll just take it down. And that's happened to me loads of times. Jadon Sancho has got a phone for the last 5 days, and he's seen the reaction, he's heard the reaction, he's had people telling him about the reaction, and he's still not got on there and gone delete, or even better, quote tweet, part of it, he's done nothing, he's just left it there. He's left it there, and that to me is his biggest issue. My biggest issue is the fact that there is only one way to read that message. And actually, I saw somebody the other day quoting a Jadon Sancho interview from probably 2019 or something like that, and the similar words were used about Dortmund scapegoating him and this, that, and the other. And I thought, bloody hell, it's incredible how similar that is to something that's happening 4 years later at Man United. But there's only one way to read it. He uses the word scapegoat. He basically says the manager's a liar. He says there's other reasons why he's being treated like this. It's unprofessional, and he should have deleted it. But what I will say is, and apparently he wanted to go to Saudi Arabia. We don't know that. But apparently he wanted to go to Saudi Arabia last night, but United wanted 50 million, so it fell through. I mean, the amount of deals United have not got through in the last few weeks. Sancho could be gone, McTominay, Maguire. We could have had another 80 million quid. Hi Mark, just wanted to send you good luck for Goldbridge Ball tomorrow. I think Sancho should be sold. A player is never bigger than the club or the manager, says Locke. Well, this is what I want to talk about, what happens next. What I will say about this, and I've always been very, very vocal about how there's a lot of British bias in the media in this country. Like, you look at Harry Maguire and how he gets treated because he's English. Now, if he was Eric Bailly, and Eric Bailly refused to go to West Ham and was hanging around earning 200 grand a week, I think there would be a lot of different things said about Eric Bailly by the media and ex-players, etc. But because Maguire's English, he gets away with it. And that we know that happens. We see it all the time. If you look at the way Bruno got treated at the end of last season in the Liverpool game, lied about. Martial's had it, Pogba's had it, De Gea's had it. There's a lot of British bias, and if you're foreign, you get treated worse. That's just the way it's been. However, on this case, I've got to say, you've always got to be even-handed here. Good luck for tomorrow, Mark. We'll be on your side, says MUFC fans. Thank you very much. When you look at the Jadon Sancho situation, I do completely agree on a footballing term that there is a problem to be solved there. It can't be swept under the carpet. The tweet is still out. He needs to be dealt with. Absolutely, exactly, he does need to be dealt with. But when you look at the last few days, it's almost like the Sancho... Well, actually, it's not almost like. Most articles and clips I've seen over the last few days have been about Jadon Sancho from numerous people in the media. Very little about Antony. And you think, hold on a minute, like, what Antony's being involved in is a lot worse than what Jadon Sancho is. Jadon Sancho is just a footballer that probably wants to leave Man United. Antony is facing some very, very, very serious questions. But all week, it's been Jadon Sancho stories. So I'd say this. It's very important to remember that the Jadon Sancho issue, and it is an issue, like it has to be resolved, and it should be resolved by Ten Hag booting him out of the club, I think. But it is a footballing matter. And it's not the first time this has happened. It happened with Ronaldo last year. It's happened with Pogba. You know, we've had these things, and players have still played for Man United. Ronaldo walked off the bench with 5 minutes to go against Spurs this time last year. He still played for United again. Paul Pogba, through Mino Raiola, right before a big Champions League game in December, put a statement out, you know, basically ripping the club to bits. He still came back and played for the club in January. So we don't need to over-egg the pudding in the sense that it is a football story and there is a way back. It is outrageous what he's done and he should be criticised for it, but he ain't the first to do it, and it is a football story, and it's very different to what's going on with Antony. And I do a little bit... Well, no, I'm not even a little bit. I do feel for Sancho a little bit. Because, no, not a little bit. Stop saying a little bit. A lot bit. I do feel for Sancho in relation to how the story has gone this week. Because it seems to have been blown up because they can't talk about the Antony situation. Because people are fearful of things like that. You know, when it was Mason Greenwood, now it's Antony. They don't want to be, ex-players don't want to be talking about that. Oh, no, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about Sancho. Whereas I think on this channel, we will obviously always talk about, what we can talk about. And we can talk about the Antony situation because it's out there publicly from people who are saying things publicly. So I looked back at the shows we've been doing this week and I thought, you know what? There has been some focusing on Sancho because there's been some stories there. But we've also spoken about Antony. In fact, I started about Antony tonight. So, yeah. I do want to acknowledge that. It has been a week where Sancho, I think, has had a lot more attention than he maybe would have done because people just don't want to touch on